Commander Veltar pressed his scaled hands against the cold metal console and tried to steady his breathing. The air in the communications center smelled of smoke and death. Through the cracked windows, he could see the crystal towers of his home. City burning. Black clouds rose from what had once been the most beautiful city on Kepler-44 to be. His people were dying. The void swarm had arrived 3 days ago, and already half his world was gone. The creatures moved like a living darkness across the land, eating everything in their path. Trees, grass, animals, people, nothing could stop them. They left only bare rock and ash behind. Veltar had been a soldier for 40 years, but he had never seen anything like this. His species, the Zephyrians, were peaceful people. They built with crystal and grew their food in floating gardens. They made art and music and studied the stars. They had no weapons that could fight something like the swarm. The emergency lights flickered red in the damaged room. Most of his communication equipment was broken, destroyed when the swarm's first wave hit the military base. But one machine still worked, the quantum transmission array. It could send messages across the galaxy in seconds. Veltar had already sent 12 distress calls to the Galactic Council. Each time he received the same cold response. Your message has been received and filed. Please wait for further instructions. But there was no time to wait. His people would be extinct before the council finished their meetings and paperwork. He looked at the star charts displayed on the broken screen. 847 worlds with intelligent life existed within transmission range. Someone would help. Someone had to help. His aide, a young female named Kira, stumbled into the room. Her blue skin was covered in dust and her eyes were wide with fear. Commander, the northern cities are gone. The swarm has crossed the Great River. We have maybe 2 days before they reach the southern continent. Veltar nodded slowly. The southern continent held the last major population centers on their world. 4 million Zephyrians lived there, including the elderly, the children, and those who could not fight. When the swarm reached them, it would be over. How many escape pods do we have? He asked. Perhaps enough for 8,000 people, Kira replied, but the swarm ships are blocking the space lanes. Nothing gets off the planet alive. Veltar turned back to the transmission array. His people had been part of the galactic community for over 1,000 years. They had traded with dozens of species, shared their knowledge freely, and never caused trouble for anyone. They had trusted that if they ever needed help, the galaxy would help them in return. But the galaxy was silent. Far across space, on a small blue world called Earth, Dr. Lisa Grant was having the worst day of her career. The coffee machine in the deep space monitoring station was broken. Her computer had crashed twice, and her research grant application had just been rejected. She sat in the quiet control room of Delta 7 station, watching radio signals from distant stars scroll across her screens. Lisa was one of only 12 people on Earth whose job was to listen for messages from space. For 15 years she had hoped to find proof that humanity was not alone in the universe. Every day she searched the signals for patterns, for anything that might be artificial. Every day she found nothing but the random noise of cosmic radiation. Her partner, Dr. Nick Barnes, walked into the room carrying 2 cups of tea. The coffee machine is completely dead, he said, setting a cup next to her keyboard. Maintenance says they can fix it next week. Next week, Lisa mumbled, not looking up from her screen. By then, we'll probably lose funding entirely. The committee thinks we're wasting money listening for little green men. Nick laughed. Well, maybe today will be different. Maybe today. The little green men will finally call. Lisa was about to make a joke about little green men when something on her screen made her freeze. A signal was coming through the deep space array. Not random noise, but something with clear mathematical structure. She grabbed her headphones and listened to the raw audio feed. The signal pulsed in regular patterns like someone tapping out. A code. Nick, look at this, she said, her voice shaking with excitement. This is not natural. Someone is broadcasting this. Nick rushed to his own console and began running analysis programs on the signal. Within minutes, the computer confirmed what Lisa had suspected. The transmission was artificial, clearly intelligent. and it was coming from the direction of the Kepler 442 star system. "My God," Nick whispered. "This is it. This is actual first contact." Lisa's hands flew across her keyboard as she tried to decode the message. The signal used prime numbers and basic mathematical constants, the universal language that scientists had theorized aliens might use to communicate with unknown species. Slowly, painfully, she began to translate the strange message. The first words that appeared on her screen made her heart sink. "We are dying." Back on Kepler 44b, Commander Veltar sent his message to every corner of the galaxy. He spoke in the mathematical language that all advanced species understood, hoping that someone, somewhere, would listen. "We are dying," he transmitted. "Our world burns. The void swarm consumes everything we have built. We are not warriors. We have no weapons that can stop them. Please, someone help us. We offer all our knowledge, our culture, our remaining resources to whoever can save even a few of our people. We ask not for ourselves, but for our children who have never seen war, for our elders who remember when the stars were full of hope. Someone, anyone, please answer. We are running out of time." He sent the message again and again, broadcasting it on every frequency the quantum array could reach. Then he sat back in his chair and waited. Round him, the walls shook as swarm creatures burrowed through the mountain that housed the communication center. On Earth, Dr. Lisa Grant worked through the night to decode the full message. When she finished, she sat staring at the screen in shock. Humanity had just received its first message from aliens, and it was a desperate cry for help from a dying world. She picked up the red phone that connected directly to the Pentagon. A sleepy voice answered after 3 rings. "This is Dr. Grant at Delta 7, she said. "I need to speak to General Parker immediately. We have a situation." 20 minutes later, her translated message was on the president's desk. Jake Morrison had been president for only 8 months, and he had never expected to deal with something like this. Sat in the Oval Office at 3 in the morning, reading the most important document in human history. His advisors were already arguing about what to do. The Secretary of Defense wanted to keep the message secret until they could study it more. The Secretary of State worried about the economic impact of revealing alien contact. The director of the CIA questioned whether the message was even real, but President Morrison kept reading the same line over and over. "We ask not for ourselves, for our children who have never seen war." He looked up at his arguing advisors and raised his hand for silence. "How long would it take our ships to reach this Kepler system?" "Sir, you can't be serious," the defense secretary said. "We don't know anything about these aliens. This could be a trap. Even if it's real, it's not our problem." "For days," said Admiral Kate Sullivan, the only military officer in the room who had not spoken against helping. "If we push our fastest ships to maximum speed, we could reach Kepler 44 to be in 4 days." President Morrison nodded. "Then we go. We send everything we have." "But sir," the Secretary of State protested, "we don't have the authority to commit humanity to an interstellar war. Congress must approve this. The UN Security Council must vote. We need to follow proper procedures. Well, those people will be dead before Congress even reads the briefing," Morrison replied. "Someone called for help, and we're the only ones who heard. Them. That's enough for me." He turned to Admiral Sullivan. "How quickly can you mobilize the fleet?" 12 hours to load supplies and crew?" "We can launch by tomorrow evening," she answered. "Do it," the president said. "And Admiral, bring everyone home, both our people and theirs." As his advisors filed out of the room, still arguing, President Morrison looked out the window at the dawn sky. Somewhere up there, an entire civilization was dying while the galaxy ignored their calls for help. But humanity had heard them. Humanity was coming. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the TDF Resilience and watched the organized chaos unfold around her. Earth's largest space dock had never seen anything like this. Supply ships rushed back and forth, loading everything from medical supplies to food rations into the hastily assembled fleet. Workers moved with desperate urgency, knowing that every minute they delayed meant more alien lives lost. The Resilience was humanity's newest and largest warship. built just 2 years ago after tensions with the Mars colonies. Kate had commanded smaller vessels her entire career, but President Morrison had personally asked her to lead this mission. She was the only admiral who had immediately supported the rescue operation when everyone else called it impossible. Admiral the Phoenix is reporting ready for departure, said her communications officer, Lieutenant Amy Chen. Captain Torres says his destroyer squadron can launch within the hour. Kate nodded and looked at the tactical display showing her small fleet. Besides the Resilience, she had 3 destroyers led by Captain Ryan Torres on the TDF Phoenix. Support vessels, the Mercy and the Hope, carried enough medical equipment and refugee pods to save thousands of people. It was not much compared to the massive fleets shown in science fiction movies, but it was everything humanity could spare. "What about our guest?" Kate asked. "Dr. Grant is in the linguistics lab working on translation protocols, Lieutenant," Chen replied. "She says she needs to be able to talk to the aliens the moment we arrive." Kate had insisted on bringing Dr. Lisa Grant along despite protests from the Defense Department. The mission would be useless if they could not communicate with the aliens they were trying to save. Lisa was the only person on Earth who understood the alien language, such as it was. Down in the ship's science lab, Dr. Grant stared at her computer screens with tired eyes, working not slept in 36 hours, working non-stop to improve the translation software. The alien message had used basic mathematics, but she needed to create a system that could handle complex conversations in real time. Her assistant, Dr. Paul Kim, brought her another cup of coffee. "The linguistic analysis is showing consistent patterns," he said. "Their language structure is actually similar to some Earth languages. We might be able to build a working translator." "Might is not good enough," Lisa replied, typing furiously. "When we get there, people will be dying. I need to understand everything they say perfectly, and they need to understand us." She had been thinking about the alien message constantly. The desperation in those mathematical equations had been clear even before translation. Someone was crying out for help, and their voice was growing weaker with each transmission they received. 3 decks below, Colonel Sam Wright briefed his Marines in the ship's main hangar. 200 of Earth's best soldiers sat in neat rows, listening as their commander explained their mission. Most of them had never expected to fight aliens when they joined the military. "We do not know what we will find when we reach the alien world," Sam told them. "The enemy they are fighting is called the Void Swarm. Our intelligence is limited, but they appear to be some kind of biological weapon that consumes everything organic. They have already destroyed dozens of worlds." A young Marine named Corporal Jake Lopez raised his hand. "Sir, what makes us think we can fight something that destroyed an entire alien civilization?" Sam smiled grimly. "'Cause we are not them, Marine. The aliens we are trying to save are peaceful people. They never learned to fight the way humans fight. We have been fighting each other for thousands of years, and we know how to kill things that want to kill us." The Marines laughed nervously. They had trained for combat against human enemies, but the principles were the same. Find the enemy, engage with superior firepower, and complete the mission. The fact that this enemy was alien did not change the basic tactics. Captain Ryan Torres stood on the bridge of the TDF Phoenix and reviewed the intelligence reports one more time. The Phoenix was 20 years old, a veteran of the Martian War, but still one of the fastest ships in the human fleet. His 2 companion destroyers, the Valor and the Guardian, were even older. "Captain, we are receiving updated target data from the Resilience," his tactical officer reported. "The alien world is 43 light-years away. Travel time at maximum hyperspace speed is 4 days, 6 hours. Ryan frowned. 4 days was cutting it very close. The alien transmission had indicated they had perhaps 6 days before total extinction, if anything went wrong during the hyperspace jump. They would arrive too late to save anyone. His weapons officer, Lieutenant Commander Alex Hayes, looked up from his console. "Sir, I have been studying the enemy data we collected from deep space observations. The Void Swarm ships are massive, much larger than anything in our fleet. But they appear to be organic rather than mechanical." "Weapons?" Ryan asked. "Uncertain, sir? Our missiles and railguns are designed to fight metal ships with shields and armor. These creatures might be vulnerable to different types of attack or they might be completely immune to our weapons. Ryan nodded thoughtfully. Human military doctrine emphasized adaptability and creative thinking. If their normal weapons did not work, they would find other ways to fight. On Earth. President Morrison sat in the Situation Room and watched the fleet preparations on multiple screens. His advisors had spent all day arguing about the mission, but the ships were already loading supplies. It was too late to change his mind now. Secretary of Defense Williams looked unhappy. Mr. President, I must protest this decision one more time. We are sending our entire deep space fleet on what might be a suicide mission to help aliens we know nothing about. If this goes wrong, Earth will be defenseless. Defenseless against what? Marson replied. Yesterday we thought we were alone in the universe. Today we know there are hundreds of alien civilizations out there. If we want their respect when we meet them officially, we need to show them who we are. We are the people who answer when someone calls for help. General Parker, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, pointed to the tactical display. Sir, we are analyzing the limited data we have about this void swarm. They have consumed 17 star systems in the past 50 years. If they turn their attention to Earth after destroying the alien world, we might not be able to stop them. Morrison stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the lights of Washington, D.C., millions of people going about their normal lives while humanity prepared for its first interstellar war. Then we better make sure we stop them at the alien world, he said. Admiral Sullivan knows what she is doing. Our people will bring everyone home.
Act on the resilience, Admiral.
Sullivan received the final launch authorization from Earth Command. All 5 ships of the rescue fleet reported ready for departure. The crew had loaded enough supplies for a month-long mission, though they hoped to be home much sooner. Dr. Grant hurried onto the bridge, carrying a tablet computer. Admiral, I have been monitoring the alien transmissions. They are getting weaker. Commander Veltar sent another message 2 hours ago. The swarm has reached the northern cities. He estimates 2 days before they overrun the last population centers. Kate felt her stomach tighten. 2 days plus 4 days travel time meant they would arrive with no time to spare. Can we go any faster? Not without risking engine failure? Her chief engineer reported over the intercom. We are already pushing the hyperspace generators beyond safe limits. Kate activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is Admiral Sullivan. In 5 minutes, we will enter hyperspace and begin our journey to the Kepler 442 system. We are going to help people who have never seen war who built their civilization on art and beauty rather than weapons and shields. They called for help and the galaxy ignored them. But we heard them. We are going to show them that someone cares. Looking around at her crew, young men and women. From dozens of countries united by the simple desire to help strangers in need, we do not know what we will find when we arrive. We do not know if our weapons will work against this enemy. We do not know if we will all make it home. But we know why we are going. Someone called for help, and humans always answer that call. All ships, prepare for hyperspace jump. The 5 ships of humanity's first interstellar rescue mission disappeared into the swirling blue tunnel of hyperspace, racing toward a distant world where an alien civilization fought for survival against impossible odds. Behind them, Earth watched and waited, hoping their children would return as heroes in the Kepler system. Commander Veltar received one final transmission on his failing equipment. The message was short and simple, transmitted in the mathematical languages people used for interstellar communication. This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Terran Defense Force. We received your message. We are coming to help. Hold on for 4 more days. Humanity is on the way. Bro, the first time in a week. Veltar allowed himself to hope. Someone had answered their call. A small species called humans was coming to save them. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace and found hell waiting for them. Admiral Kate Sullivan stared at the main screen in horror as Kepler 44b came into view. What had once been a beautiful blue and green world now looked like a diseased wound in space. Dark clouds covered half the planet, and massive black shapes moved like living shadows across the surface. My God, whispered Lieutenant Amy Chen from her communication station. What are those things? The tactical display showed dozens of enormous objects orbiting the planet. Each one was the size of a city, but they moved with organic grace that no machine could match. They pulsed with dark energy and trailed streams of consumed matter behind them, like the tails of comets. "Those are Void Swarm bioships," said Lieutenant Commander Alex Hayes, studying the sensor data. "Each one is approximately 2 kilometers long. I count 47 of them in orbit, with more rising from the planet's surface." Kate felt her heart sink. The intelligence reports had mentioned large enemy ships, but seeing them in person was overwhelming. Her entire fleet could fit inside just one of those creatures. What about weapons signatures? That's the strange part, Admiral. I'm not detecting any conventional weapons. No energy cannons, no missile tubes, nothing that looks like military hardware. Oh, but they're definitely hostile. 3 of them are already moving toward us. On the planet below, the crystal cities that had once sparkled like jewels were now dark ruins. Vast sections of the continents showed as brown scars where the swarm had stripped away every living thing. The northern hemisphere was almost completely consumed, leaving behind only bare rock and ash. Dr. Lisa Grant worked frantically at her translation console, trying to contact the alien survivors. "I'm picking up a weak signal from the southern continent. It's Commander Veltar. He's still alive down there." The main screen flickered and showed the image of an alien face. Veltar looked exhausted, his blue skin pale and his large eyes filled with desperation. Behind him, Lisa could see other aliens moving through what appeared to be an underground shelter. "Human ships," Veltar said through the translation system, his voice crackling with static. "You came. We did not think anyone would answer our call." "We're here to get you out," Kate replied, hoping the translation system worked both ways. "How many survivors do you have?" 8,000 in the southern shelters. It's maybe a few hundred scattered in other locations. The swarm has consumed everything else. Our cities, our farms, our people. We are all that remains of a civilization that lasted 3,000 years. Lisa worked to improve the signal quality while Kate studied the tactical situation. The approaching swarm bioships were still 20 minutes away, moving slowly but steadily toward the human fleet.
Oh.
She needed to get her people down to the planet before those things arrived. "Captain Torres, take the Phoenix and your destroyer squadron. Establish a defensive perimeter around the planet. Keep those bioships away from our rescue shuttles." "Understood," Admiral Ryan Torres replied from the Phoenix. Moving to intercept, Kate turned to her Marine commander. "Colonel Wright, how quickly can you get down there and start evacuating survivors?" Sam Wright studied the tactical display. Showing the planet's surface, the underground shelters are spread across 3 locations on the southern continent. "If we use all our shuttles and work fast, we might be able to get everyone out in 6 hours. "You have 2 hours," Kate told him. "After that, we're going to be fighting for our lives up here." The first battle began sooner than expected. Das. Human shuttles descended toward the planet. One of the swarm bioships changed course and moved to intercept them. The creature was massive, its dark surface covered in what looked like breathing holes and sensing organs. Captain Torres brought the Phoenix around in a sharp turn and opened fire with everything he had. Railgun rounds and missiles struck the bioship's hull, tearing chunks of organic matter away, but the creature barely slowed down. Instead, it opened sections of its body and released hundreds of smaller organisms that swarmed toward the human ships like angry insects. "These things don't fight like machines," Torres reported over the radio. "They're alive. When we damage them, they bleed and try to heal themselves. But they also feel pain." Lieutenant Commander Hayes analyzed the enemy behavior from his position. "On the resilience, sir, I think I understand their weakness. These are biological creatures, not mechanical ships. They rely on nervous systems and organic processes. If we can disrupt their neural networks, we might be able to disable them." "How do we do that?" Kate asked. "Electromagnetic pulse weapons. Use them to disable enemy electronics, but they might also scramble biological neural systems. It's worth trying." Kate ordered the Phoenix to test the theory. Torres fired a concentrated EMP burst at the damaged bioship. The result was immediate and dramatic. The creature stopped moving, its smaller organisms falling dead in space around it. But the effect only lasted for a few minutes before the bioship began to recover. It works, but not for long, Torres reported. These things can heal from EMP damage, but it takes time. If we keep hitting them with pulses, we can keep them disabled. Down on the planet, Colonel Wright's Marines encountered their first swarm ground forces. The shuttle had landed near the largest survivor shelter, hidden deep underground in what had once been a mining complex. As the Marines secured the landing zone, creatures began emerging from the consumed ground around them. The swarm soldiers looked like a nightmare combination of insect and machine. They were the size of tanks, but moved with the speed of hunting cats. Their bodies were covered in natural armor. They had multiple limbs ending in claws that could cut through steel. Corporal Jake Lopez was the first Marine to engage the enemy. His rifle rounds seemed to have little effect until he switched to explosive ammunition. Colonel, standard bullets just bounce off these things, but explosives work. They don't like getting blown up. The firefight was brief but intense. The swarm creatures were fast and deadly, but they had never fought humans before. They were adapted to fight the energy weapons used by most galactic civilizations. Human kinetic weapons and chemical explosives caused damage they were not designed to handle. They're tough, but they're not invincible, Sam reported to Admiral Sullivan. We can fight them, but we need to be smart about it. Move fast, hit hard, and don't let them surround us. The Marines reached the underground shelter and found Commander Veltar waiting with nearly 3,000 alien survivors. The Zephyrians were a peaceful-looking people, with blue skin and large, intelligent eyes. Many of them carried small personal belongings, the last remnants of their destroyed civilization. Your people are brave, Veltar told Colonel Wright. Through Dr. Grant's translation system, no species has ever tried to fight the swarm in ground combat. They consume worlds by overwhelming any resistance with sheer numbers. Numbers don't matter if you know how to fight, Sam replied. My Marines have been in worse situations than this. We're going to get your people out of here. The evacuation proceeded faster than expected. The Zephyrians were organized and cooperative, following Marine directions without question. They seemed amazed that alien soldiers had come so far just to save them. But in space, the situation was getting worse. More swarm bioships were arriving from the outer system, drawn by the battle. Captain Torres and his destroyers fought desperately to keep them away from the evacuation shuttles, but they were vastly outnumbered. Admiral, we have 18 bioships converging on our position, Alex Hayes reported. The Phoenix and her squadron are taking heavy damage. They can't hold the perimeter much longer. Kate watched the tactical display and made a hard decision. Signaled the Phoenix to fall back to the planet. We'll make our stand in the atmosphere where the big bioships can't maneuver as well. The human fleet regrouped around Kepler 4 for it to be as more evacuation shuttles climbed toward orbit, loaded with alien survivors. Each shuttle carried 200 refugees, packed together in conditions that would have been uncomfortable for humans, but were luxury compared to the underground shelters. Dr. Grant continued working with Veltar to coordinate the rescue. Their conversations, she learned more about Zephyrian society and their peaceful culture. They were artists and scientists, people who had never imagined needing weapons to defend themselves. We trusted the Galactic Council to protect us, Veltar explained sadly. We sent our distress calls to 47 different species. All of them acknowledged receiving our messages. None of them came to help. He said it would take too long to organize a response, that the political situation was too complex.
Politics,
Kate muttered when Lisa translated this. People were dying, and they worried about politics. The second wave of swarm bioships arrived just as the last shuttles loaded with survivors lifted off from the planet. These creatures were even larger than the first group, some of them nearly 3 kilometers long. They moved with purpose, clearly intending to destroy both the human ships and their rescued aliens. All ships, prepare for the fight of our lives, Kate announced over the fleet communication system. We came here to save these people, and we're not leaving without them. Show these creatures what humans can do when we're defending innocent lives. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched her tactical screen as 18 massive void swarm bioships closed in on her small fleet. The human ships had managed to rescue 4,000 Zephyrian survivors so far, but 4,000 more remained trapped on the planet's surface. The math was simple and terrible. They could not save everyone and escape alive. Admiral, the support ships Mercy and Hope are loaded with refugees and ready to jump to hyperspace, reported Lieutenant Amy Chen. They're requesting permission to leave the system. Kate stared at the display showing the locations of the remaining survivor shelters. Colonel Wright's Marines were fighting desperately on the ground to reach them, but the swarm was closing. In from all directions, she sent the support ships away now. They could save the refugees already aboard. But thousands more would die. Negative, she said firmly. No one leaves until we get everyone out. Admiral, with respect, that might be impossible, said Lieutenant Commander Alex Hayes from his tactical station. The enemy has too many ships. We're outnumbered 10-1. Commander Veltar, who had been brought aboard the Resilience during the evacuation, stepped forward. His blue skin was pale, and his large eyes showed deep sadness. Through Dr. Grant's translation system, he spoke quietly. Admiral Sullivan, you have already saved more of my people than we dared hope. Those you have rescued to safety. Do not sacrifice your own people for the few of us who remain. Kate turned to look at the alien commander. With respect, Commander, that's not how humans work. We came here to save all of you, not just some of you. We don't leave people behind. On the planet's surface, Colonel Sam Wright crouched behind the wreckage of a Zephyrian crystal building and studied his tactical display. His Marines had reached the second survivor shelter and were loading refugees into shuttles as fast as possible. But swarm ground forces were converging on their position from 3 directions. How many more, Corporal? He asked Jake Lopez, who was helping elderly Zephyrians into the shuttle. About 600 in this shelter, sir. But we've got company. Coming, big company. Sam looked through his binoculars at the horizon. A dark wave was moving across the landscape toward them, thousands of swarm creatures flowing like a living carpet over the consumed ground. They had maybe 15 minutes. Before being completely surrounded, all squads, defensive positions, he ordered over the radio. We hold this position until every civilian is evacuated. No one gets through. The Marines spread out around the landing zone, setting up heavy weapons and explosive charges. They had learned from the first fight that swarm creatures were vulnerable to explosives and rapid-fire weapons. But there were so many of them coming. In space, Captain Ryan Torres brought the Phoenix around for another attack run on the nearest bioship. His destroyer was badly damaged, with hull breaches on 3 decks and half his weapon systems offline. But the ship still had fight left in her. Target their neural clusters, he told his weapons officer. Those spots where the bioelectric activity is highest. Hit them with everything we have. The Phoenix fired a concentrated barrage of EMP missiles at the bioship's nerve centers. The massive creature shuddered and went limp, its smaller organisms falling away like dead leaves. But Torres knew the effect would not last long. These things could heal faster than his ships could damage them. Phoenix to Resilience, he radioed. We're running low on EMP munitions. Each shot only disables them for a few minutes. We need a better strategy. On the Resilience, Dr. Lisa Grant worked frantically with Commander Veltar to find a solution. She had been studying Zephyrian technology, looking for anything that might help in the battle. Commander, your people mentioned bioresonance systems in your cities, she said. What exactly do those do? Veltar looked confused by the question. They maintain harmony between our organic technology and the natural world. Every Zephyrian city has resonance generators that keep our biosystems healthy and synchronized. Lisa's eyes widened as she understood. What frequency do they operate? On the same frequency as all life on our world? Lisa turned to Admiral Sullivan with excitement. Admiral, I think I know how to hurt these creatures. The Zephyrians have bioresonance technology that operates on the same frequency as their planet's life forms. If we can reverse the harmonics, create destructive interference instead of constructive harmony, we might be able to disrupt the swarm's biological processes on a massive scale. Kate looked hopeful for the first time since the battle began. Can we do it? The main resonance generator is in the capital city ruins. If we can reach it and modify the frequency output, could create a planet-wide pulse that would scramble every swarm creature's nervous system. How long would that take? Maybe an hour to make the modifications, assuming the equipment still works. Kate made her decision. Colonel Wright, change of mission. Get to the capital city and secure that resonance generator. Dr. Grant, you're going down there with him. On the ground, Sam Wright received the new orders and felt his stomach drop. The capital city was in the middle of the most heavily consumed area on the planet. It would be like walking into the heart of a swarm nest. But if it could save everyone, they had to try. Squad leaders were changing targets, he announced. Load up the remaining civilians and prepare to move to the capital. We're going to attempt something that will either save this world or get us all killed. The evacuation shuttles lifted off under heavy fire from advancing swarm creatures. The Marines fought a running battle across the consumed landscape, using every trick they knew to stay ahead of the pursuing enemy. Corporal Lopez carried an injured Zephyrian child while firing his rifle at creatures that looked like mechanical spiders the size of cars. Sir, these things just keep coming, he shouted over the noise of battle.
I'll wake you.
For every one we kill, 10 more show up. That's why we're going to kill them all at once, Sam replied. Leading his people toward the ruins of the Crystal City in space, the situation was getting desperate. The swarm bioships had formed a circle around the human fleet, slowly tightening like a noose. Admiral Sullivan ordered her ships to fight in close formation, using concentrated firepower to keep the enemy at bay. The destroyer Guardian took a direct hit from a bioship's organic weapons, streams of corrosive acid that ate through her HULL armor. Captain Maria Santos fought to keep her ship operational as emergency crews sealed breaches and rerouted power systems. Resilience, this is Guardian, she radioed. We're losing life support on decks 4 and 5. Hull integrity is at 30%. I don't know how much longer we can hold together. Kate felt the weight of command pressing down on her. Every minute they stayed in this system, more of her people died. But she could not abandon the mission, not when they were so close to saving. Everyone, all ships, maintain formation. We hold the line until Colonel Wright completes his mission. Dr. Grant descended to the planet's surface in a heavily armored shuttle, escorted by a full squad of Marines. The capital city was a nightmare landscape of twisted crystal and consumed earth. The bioresonance generator sat in the center of the ruins, a tall spire that still pulsed with faint energy. The good news is, it's still functional, Lisa reported as she connected her equipment to the alien technology. The bad news is I'm surrounded by about 1 million swarm creatures, and they're all heading this way. Colonel Wright set up a defensive perimeter around the generator while Lisa worked. His Marines used every explosive device they had, turning the approaches to the spire into killing fields. But the swarm kept coming, wave after wave of hungry creatures drawn by the activity. Dr. Grant, how much longer? Sam asked, reloading his rifle for the 20th time. Almost there. Need 5 more minutes to reverse the harmonics and build. Up enough power for a planet-wide pulse? You've got it, Sam promised, though he was not sure how he would keep that promise. In space, Admiral Sullivan watched the tactical display as more swarm bioships arrived from deep space. She counted over 50 of them now, enough to destroy a dozen human fleets. But her people were still fighting, still believing they could win against impossible odds. Admiral, incoming transmission from Earth Command, Lieutenant Chen reported. Gate accepted the communication and saw President Morrison's face on the screen. Admiral, we're monitoring your situation. The Joint Chiefs are recommending immediate withdrawal. We've saved 4,000 lives. That's enough. No, sir, it's not enough, Kate replied. We have a chance to save them all. My people are willing to take that chance. Morrison nodded slowly. Then Godspeed, Admiral. Bring everyone home. On the planet's surface, Lisa Grant made the final adjustments to the bioresonance generator. The spire began to hum with building energy, its crystal structure glowing brighter as the modified harmonics reached critical levels. Ready, she announced, activating planet-wide bioresonance pulse in 10 seconds. Colonel Wright and his Marines braced themselves as the generator reached full power. The pulse would either destroy every swarm creature on the planet, or it would do nothing, and they would all die fighting impossible odds. Either way, humanity had kept its promise. They had answered the call for help. The bioresonance pulse erupted from the crystal spire like a silent explosion. Dr. Lisa Grant watched her instruments as the modified harmonics spread across the planet at the speed of light. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The swarm. Creatures continued their advance toward Colonel Wright's defensive positions, their claws scraping against the crystal ruins. Then, as if someone had flipped a switch, every swarm creature on the planet stopped moving. The massive tank-sized soldiers froze in place like statues. The smaller creatures that had been swarming through the ruins collapsed where they stood. Across the entire world, millions of void swarm organisms simply shut down. It worked, Lisa whispered, hardly believing what she was seeing. The resonance pulse disrupted their neural networks. They're all dead. Colonel Sam Wright looked around at the battlefield littered with motionless swarm bodies. His Marines emerged from their defensive positions cautiously, weapons still ready. Corporal Jake Lopez kicked one of the fallen creatures with his boot. It did not move. "Colonel, are you seeing this?" came Captain Torres's voice over the radio from orbit. The bioships in space just went dead too. All of them, just floating there like empty shells. In space, Admiral Kate Sullivan stared at her tactical display in amazement. 52 massive swarm bioships hung motionless around the planet, their organic lights fading as biological systems shut down one by one. Her small fleet was suddenly alone in the system with no living enemies. "All ships report status," she ordered, hardly daring to believe it was over. The responses came back quickly. The Phoenix was badly damaged but operational.
The Guardian
had hull breaches but was still fighting ready. The support ships Mercy and Hope were intact and loaded with refugees. Most importantly, none of her people had been killed, though several were injured. "Dr. Grant, what exactly did you do down there?" Kate asked over the communication system. Lisa looked up from her instruments, her face tired but triumphant. "Reversed the bioresonance frequency that the Zephyrians use to maintain harmony with their world's life forms. Instead of creating biological harmony, the pulse created destructive interference. It scrambled the neural pathways of every swarm organism within range." Commander Veltar, who had been watching the battle from the Resilience Bridge, spoke through the translation system. "The pulse reached beyond our world. Our sensors show that swarm creatures throughout this entire star system have been affected. You have not just saved our planet, you have destroyed the entire invasion force." The rescue operation continued for another 6 hours, but now it was a joyful task instead of a desperate race against time. Marine shuttles landed at the remaining survivor shelters without opposition. The last 4,000 Zephyrians were brought safely aboard the human ships. As the final shuttle docked with the Mercy, Kate Sullivan allowed herself to smile for the first time since arriving in the system. All 8,000 survivors were safe. Her fleet was intact. Against impossible odds, humanity had succeeded. But their victory was about to become something much larger. Lieutenant Amy Chen looked up from her communication station with wide eyes. "Admiral, I'm detecting massive hyperspace signatures at the edge of the system. Multiple fleets are incoming." Kate felt her heart sink. Had the swarm sent reinforcements? But as the new arrivals dropped out of hyperspace, she realized these were not enemy ships. The vessels had the sleek, elegant designs typical of Galactic Council species. 12 different fleets had arrived, representing dozens of alien civilizations. "This is Admiral Sullivan of the Terran Defense Force," Kate transmitted on standard galactic frequencies. "Identify yourselves and state your intentions." The response came from the largest fleet, whose ships bore the golden symbols of the Galactic Council. "This is Fleet Admiral Zaxter of the Council Defense Force. We received reports of void swarm activity in this system. We have come to provide assistance." Kate looked at her tactical display. The Council fleets numbered in the hundreds of ships, a massive armada that could have easily destroyed the swarm forces. They had finally arrived 6 hours too late. "Admiral Zaxter, the situation is under control," she replied coldly. "The void swarm has been eliminated. All Zephyrian civilians have been rescued." There was a long pause before the alien admiral responded. "Eliminated? How is that possible? Our intelligence indicated the swarm force was too large for any single species to defeat." "Apparently your intelligence was wrong," Kate said. The threat has been neutralized by Terran forces. Dr. Grant listened to the exchange and whispered to Commander Veltar, "How long did it take them to organize this response?" Veltar checked his chronometer. 14 standard days since our first distress call. The council debate process required approval from 47 member species. Lisa shook her head in disgust. 14 days. While your people were dying, they spent 2 weeks in committee meetings. The political implications of what had happened were enormous. Humanity, a species not even known to exist a week ago, had accomplished what the entire Galactic Council claimed was impossible. They had defeated a void swarm invasion force and saved an entire civilization. Admiral Zaxter's next transmission carried a different tone, more formal and careful. The Galactic Council would like to extend an official invitation for humanity to join as a member species. We offer immediate access to galactic trade networks, advanced technology, and full diplomatic recognition. Kate looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. These young men and women had risked their lives to save strangers from across the galaxy. They deserved better than politicians who showed up after the fighting was over. Admiral Zaxter, "I will relay your invitation to my government," she said. "However, I have a question for you. We intercepted 47 acknowledgments of the Zephyrian distress calls. 47 different species confirmed they received requests for help. Why were we the only ones who responded?" Another long pause. The situation was complicated. There were political considerations, resource allocation debates, and procedural requirements that needed to be addressed. "I see," Kate replied. "So while you were having debates, an entire civilization was facing extinction. While you worried about politics, my people flew across the galaxy to fight an enemy we had never seen before. Is that an accurate summary?" Admiral Sullivan. The Council operates under established protocols that ensure proper deliberation before committing resources. To Kate cut him off. "Admiral, I will pass your invitation to Earth Command. But I suggest the Council think carefully about what today's events mean for galactic politics. Someone called for help, and only humanity answered. Remember that." The journey back to Earth took 4 days. The human fleet traveled in convoy with the Zephyrian refugees, would transform the cargo holds of the support ships into temporary living spaces. Dr. Grant spent most of the trip working with Commander Veltar to document Zephyrian culture and technology. "Your people are remarkable," Veltar told her during one of their sessions. "In our 3,000 years of civilization, we never imagined that someone would risk so much for strangers. The galaxy will remember what humanity did here." When the fleet finally reached Earth, they found the entire planet celebrating. News of humanity's first contact and heroic rescue had spread across every nation. The return of the fleet was broadcast live to billions of viewers. President Morrison met personally with the Zephyrian refugees, offering them sanctuary on Earth while their homeworld was rebuilt. The alien survivors were amazed by human cities, human art, and human diversity. Many chose to stay permanently, becoming Earth's first alien immigrants. 6 months later, Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the rebuilt capital of Kepler 44 to be and watched human and Zephyrian children playing together. In the restored crystal gardens, the planet was healing, cities rising again with the help of human engineering and Zephyrian technology. Commander Veltar, now serving as the first Zephyrian ambassador to Earth, approached her with a smile. "The bioresonance network is complete. If the void swarm ever returns to this region of space, they will find a very unpleasant surprise waiting for them." Kate nodded, then handed him a datapad. "This just came in from Earth. 17 species have contacted us directly, bypassing the Galactic Council. They want to form a new alliance based on mutual aid rather than political bureaucracy." "What did your president tell them?" Kate smiled. "He said we will consider their proposal when they explain why they waited until after we proved ourselves to ask for our friendship." As the sun set over the crystal spires of the rebuilt city, Kate thought about the message that had started it all, a desperate call for help sent into the darkness of space, hoping someone, somewhere, would care enough to answer. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. When someone calls for help, humans always respond. The universe would never be the same.